AVC, how's it going? Right, okay, this is a Gimme 10 video. Gimme 10 one album wonders. So 10 artists or bands that only put out one album. So right, so this is what got me thinking about this. This is Black Monk Time by the Monks. Now this obviously is a reissue. This cost me about 12 quid, I don't know, about sort of 10-15 years ago. An original set you back about £1 because this is considered a bit of a garage classic. The Monks were a bunch of American servicemen, I believe, stationed over in Germany. Now, I assume that they started off as a beat group, that sort of British invasion sounds, and it gradually morphed into this, which is, I say, a garage rock sound, a lot more aggressive, a lot spikier. But yeah, no, it's a brilliant record. I first came across this through Julian Cope. I know that he's written about this at length, and for good reason. I say it's a brilliant album. Now I love their look. You know, you can see they're called the Monks, so they dress like monks, and they've even given themselves a Friar Tuck haircut as well. But yeah, a brilliant album, and they only put out one record, so cool. Okay, so following that, this is an album by a band called The Family. Now, this came out in the mid-80s, I think 85. Now, this is a Prince spin-off, basically. So in the early 80s, Prince put together the band The Time. And by this point, the lead singer, Morris Day, had left to start his own solo career. So Prince basically moved all of the musicians from The Time over to this new project. Now, the difference was this was fronted by Susanna Melvin, who was Prince's girlfriend at the time. And she's the twin sister of Wendy Melvin, of Wendy and Lisa, who are obviously part of the Revolution, who were the band that played on Purple Rain. Now, this album went pretty much unnoticed for a few years until 1990, when Sinead O'Connor covered one of the songs from this record. Obviously, that being Nothing Compares to You, which was a massive hit all over the world. Obviously, written by Prince. It was #1 in the UK. But the original version of that song is featured on this record. Yeah, a great record. It's a synth pop sound, a bit funky, a bit jazzy, that sort of fusion, but it works really well, and a bit of a lost classic actually, because when you look at Prince's catalogue, this fits in there nicely around that sort of 85-86 period. So yeah, very cool. Right, okay, so follow that with a bit of soul. So this is Lee Moses and the album Time and Place. Now, Lee Moses was a session musician, he was a guitarist. And the hype sticker explains that he played with the likes of Jimi Hendrix, Gladys Knight in the 60s. Now, he put out a few 45s in the late 60s, which are all worth picking up. Some of them were reissued. But he basically had one shot at an album, and this was it. Now, this came out, I think, in 1971, 72. No, yeah, 71. And it just basically passed by without trace, you know. Nobody took any interest at the time, poorly marketed. But years later, obviously, it got a following and it's been reissued. But yeah, so he did a great version of California Dreamin', obviously the Mamas and the Papas song, a real laid-back soul version, which I'll perhaps do a needle drop on. So very cool.
All the leaves are brown, and the skies are gray. I went for a walk, yes I did, on a winter's day. I'll be safe and warm if I
okay, an album that I think most people will recognise. This is Young Marble Giants with Colossal Youth. Now, this came out in 1981. This is on Rough Trade Records. I think they had self-released it prior to it going to Rough Trade, but with different artwork, but still the same record. Now, I think the band were from Wales. It's quite a minimalist sound, just bass, guitar and vocal. And at the time of punk, it was quite a stark difference. A great record. As I say, I think it's just had a reissue, actually. A 40th anniversary reissue. But one thing that they did record, I think the year after this, was an EP called the Test Card EP, which was all instrumental. And it was sort of an homage to daytime television themes, which is really cool. If you can find that, you know, definitely worth picking up. But this is a very nice album. Right, okay, so this is Buckingham Nicks. So this came out, I think, about 73. This is obviously Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. It's the band, the project that they had prior to joining Fleetwood Mac. Now, this is actually the album that got them the gig with Fleetwood Mac. Now, I've always loved the first 3 albums that they recorded, you know, with the band. So the White Fleetwood Mac album, Rumours and Tusk, 3 brilliant records. But this album eluded me for many years. Now, I don't think it's ever been issued on CD. I don't know what the deal is there. It's a really nice record. I mean, it's not perfect, but you can. I mean, certainly Lindsey Buckingham's guitar playing is exceptional throughout this record. A few of the songs are a little bit weak, but it does include stuff like Crystal, which appeared on the White Fleetwood Mac album. Also a track called Don't Let Me Down Again, which Fleetwood Mac used to put in their live set, and that's actually on the live album that Fleetwood Mac put out, I think, in about 1980-81. So it's interesting they went back to some of these songs. But yeah, the one thing I don't like about this record is that some of the tracks, they've double tracked Stevie Nicks' voice, which I don't think suits her. But apart from that, I think this is a really special record, so very nice. So if you're a soul music fan, I can't recommend this record enough. This is a record that you must own. This is Alice Clark, her self-titled album from 1972. Now, I mean, first of all, there's a strong Aretha Franklin influence here because, well, basically she's using Aretha's band. So you've got Bernard Purdie on drums, you've got Cornell Dupree on guitar, but it's all about her voice. I mean, the thing about soul music, you know, it's got to have soul. I know it's an obvious thing to say, but you've got to believe what the person is singing. And that's the problem with a lot of current soul music, which tries to, you know, sort of mimic that 60s soul sound. It's great having, you know, analog recording techniques and whatever, trying to make it sound like the 1960s. But if you haven't got the, you know, the soul in your voice, if you haven't got the emotion, if people don't believe what you're singing, you know, it's worthless. And that's my issue with a lot of current soul music at the moment. Too much focus on the overall sound rather than, you know, the feel of the song. Alice Clark, you believe every word that she said. You know, her voice was perfect. I mean, I understand she had quite a hard life, and I don't know, perhaps that's part of it. I don't know, but this is a brilliant record. I say it's that early 70s soul sound. There's a real strong gospel influence in there, which I suppose is that overlap with Aretha Franklin. But if you don't know it, I can't recommend checking this one out enough. But yeah, a brilliant record. And another soul record from a similar period. This is the Baby Huey story, the living legend. Well, Baby Huey recorded a handful of tracks for Curtis Mayfield's label. Many of which were written by Curtis. He produced these sessions. Baby Huey died very young. I think he died of heart failure. I think he was only 28. And following his death, Curtis put together this album of the few singles that he'd released, plus a few other outtakes. It's a brilliant record. I mean, particularly for one or two tracks. The song Hard Times in particular is fantastic, as is the opening track, Listen to Me. So if you don't know them, check them out. Right, and something a little bit different now. So this is an album, here you can see, credited to Prefab Sprout, and it's called I Trawled the Megahertz. Now, that was how it was reissued a year or two ago. When it was originally put out, it was only put out on CD, and you can see I Trawled the Megahertz, credited to Paddy McAloon. Now, this is the only release that Paddy McAloon has put out under his own name rather than the band name. And I wish that they hadn't reissued it under the band name, because it really doesn't fit into their catalogue. It's something totally different. It's basically, well, at this point, Paddy McAloon was struggling with his eyesight. He had temporary loss of vision, so he spent a lot of time listening to the radio, just trawling through, through stations, listening to anything. So this basically is, inspired by that. So you've got a real mixture of styles. You've got spoken word, you've got avant-garde, you've got modern classical. And it's a brilliant record. I listen to this as much as I do any Prefab Sprout album. It's a fantastic record, and I'll perhaps do a needle drop on that.
I am telling myself the story of my life, stranger than song or fiction. We start with the joyful mysteries before the appearance of ether, trying to capture the elusive. The farm where the crippled horses heel, the woods where autumn is reversed, and the longing for bliss in the arms of some beloved from the past. I said, your daddy loves you. I said, your daddy loves you very much. He just doesn't want to live with us anymore.
Right, okay, just two more to go. First up, Tom Brock with I Love You More and More. Now, a few months ago, I did a Gimme 10 Barry White Productions, and I didn't include this record. Obviously, it's produced by Barry White, but I didn't own it, and the reason being it was quite expensive to pick up at that point. And this has just recently been reissued by Mr. Bongo. It's a brilliant pressing. Now, Tom Brock was basically a songwriter, so most of the stuff on here is written solely by Tom Brock or co-written with Barry White. Great songs. It's that beautiful mid-70s Barry White production sound. If you like it, you'll love this record. But again, another reissue that I can't recommend enough. And finally, a CD I want to show. This came out in 1998. Now, at this point, I was reading Uncut magazine a lot, who were focusing a lot on, obviously, alt country, Americana, but also that sort of early 70s Beach Boys sound. Now, this was an album that was reviewed at the time. It's by a band called June and the Exit Wounds. It's called A Little More Haven Hamilton, Please. And I remember vividly reading a review where it really did, liken this album. It gave a great review, liken this album to that early 70s Beach Boys sound. So I went out and bought it and absolutely loved it. Now, personally, I think it's got more of a Todd Rundgren influence there, but I'll perhaps do a needle drop on it. I don't think it's ever been reissued, but you can get this CD for £2 or £3 from Discogs. If you don't know it, I think that would be £3 well spent. Give it a go, but I'll perhaps do a needle drop on that. So, cheers.